Here in Philadelphia, since 1793, they make money. Silver dollars and half dollars, quarters and dimes, and pennies and nickels. And of all the coins minted in this building, the nickel was once the most important to the average American. Yes, for a nickel, any of us could buy most of the little things we needed. Remember when for a 5-cent piece we could get this, and in most cases a free lunch besides. And for that same nickel, we could buy ourselves a shave, and for 2 nickels, a haircut. And if we wanted to see Mary Pickford or William S. Hart, all we needed to do was pay our nickel at the box office and all the world opened to the accompaniment of a tinny piano. Well, it's a rare cigar you can buy for 5 cents now, but what this man still sells for a nickel is worth $1 million. It is a stamp to send letters abroad. And with it, our ideas and our thoughts and our hopes can span the globe. Here in the post office in New York, these letters are bound for the 4 corners of the earth, and each one costs, that's right, a nickel. Look at them, millions of them, written by Americans to non-Americans, containing words of hope and sometimes words of sadness, but all part of a great American habit, to put it in writing and drop it in the mailbox. Did it ever occur to you that America was settled by mail? Well, it was, literally. When the Pilgrims first came to these shores, the Mayflower pouches brought their letters back to the old country, telling about the wilderness and the sun and the rich earth and the rain. And those letters brought more Europeans to join their brothers here. And as the years went by, the letters told of the great men, of Washington and Franklin and Jefferson and Hamilton. And the letters told, too, of the words these men thought and wrote, words that have set the design for free men everywhere. Their letters told that men of principle fought for these words at Concord, at Lexington, and Saratoga. And these letters reached men who were victims of tyranny, men given hope at last. And letters with these 5-cent stamps on them told all the world again of Gettysburg and the story of a people's decision that a nation conceived in liberty should not perish from the earth. And so America fever swept the world. To old Castle Garden and later Ellis Island they came, shiploads of them, to gaze at the Statue of Liberty and the skyline of the New World. And the immigration officers saw that they were from everywhere. So they made their places on this new continent. And then came this proud and great day, an ordinary Wednesday, and yet far from an ordinary Wednesday for them, when they became citizens, the Wednesday they joined the people of the United States and became one of them, the Wednesday they joined in vigil with their fellow countrymen to tend and irrigate the tree of liberty, its roots deep in the bedrock of law. And as they trooped down the courthouse steps, all of them, without exception, had one thing in mind: to write to those left behind the proud and great news that they were now American citizens. Today, there are 35 million Americans born abroad or whose parents were born abroad, knowing and speaking their native tongues. They write almost 500 million letters a year, 16 million to countries under Russian domination. What do they write about? What is in all these mail sacks? The truth about us, about our lives and our hopes. What kind of truth? Well, here in Chicago, home of so many Eastern Europeans, a Pole writes,
I came to this country a year ago. No one has checked my papers yet. Not once has a policeman stopped me to ask where I come from or whether I have this or that certificate.
This letter reaches Poland, and this man's young cousins living in Warsaw in communist terror have found another weapon against tyranny. In Detroit, a Dane was amazed to discover how Soviet lies had penetrated his homeland. He writes,
Of course we have strikes in America, but listen to what I say. In Europe, workers strike as a last resort against intolerable conditions. Here they go out for cost of living increases, overtime, and pensions. This is not worker oppression, this is worker freedom.
And in Copenhagen, this man's father can now refute the Soviet agents and the Soviet lies. A student from Norway who enrolled at a university here in Boston and who has had a thorough indoctrination of Russian propaganda wrote home in amazement to his country,
I've gone out among the workers to see how they are ground into the earth by the capitalist bosses. My friends, it is unbelievable. The chief complaint is about the parking problem.
Exaggerated, of course, but Russian agents still have difficulty with this student's brother when they discuss the poor worker in America. An Italian lady in New York walked down Fifth Avenue her first day and hurried home to write to her mother.
Incredibile. With the women, you cannot tell the shop girls from the millionaires.
In Rome, this one letter is read by every woman on the block, then every woman in the neighborhood. One letter actually becomes a newspaper. In Texas, a former Yugoslav writes home with amazement.
Imagine, every morning the milkman brings the milk at dawn, and it remains on the doorstep for hours. Nobody steals it.
In Belgrade, this does not match the stories they have heard of starving Americans who riot for food. And the rest of these letters are very much alike, amazement at what we take for granted. But the question you must ask is, do these letters get through? To Western Europe, of course, but do they penetrate the Iron Curtain? Here are the facts. We have no way of knowing how many letters get to Moscow. The censorship is rigid. But to the satellite countries, we are certain they do get through. The business of policing captive people is an enormous one. With all the propaganda rallies like this, the people still find ways to get the truth. We know that packages like these get through because millions of Americans get acknowledgement and guarded replies. And a good deal of sardonic criticism of communism is written between the lines to outwit the censors. A former Bostonian who made the error of returning to Hungary wrote to a friend here,
I am living as well as our friends in Mount Pleasant.
This is Mount Pleasant. And this is New York, where this letter was sent to Freedom House, where the offices of the Common Council for American Unity are located. In the spirit of Wendell Willkie's One World, the men and women of the council are urging all of us to make use of the nickel that's worth $1 million. The nickel that sends a letter abroad, and lines from this building go out all over America. Here in Culver City, California, there are many friends of the council. Whatever language they say it in, they are asking you to write exactly what you feel, no strings attached, just tell the truth. Meet some of them. They want to talk to you in your own language.
Questo è Pierangeli che vi parla. Vi prego, fate come me. Leggete le lettere settimanali sugli articoli americani nel vostro giornale e mi farete tanto contenta. Grazie.
Me llamo Ricardo Montalbán. Describan ustedes las costumbres de la vida en Norteamérica por medio de algunos ejemplos que hayan experimentado personalmente. Muchas gracias.
Je suis Leslie Caron. Je vous en prie, écrivez chaque semaine à un ami ou à une personne de votre famille. Merci.
Gábor Zsazsa üdvözli Önöket. Úgy örülök, hogy az anyanyelvemen beszélhetek. Kérem, mikor írnak haza Magyarországra, mondják meg, hogy mi itt milyen boldogok vagyunk. De nem mondják, hogy milyen gazdagság van itt. Viszontlátásra.
This is one of the largest radio transmitters in existence. Yet all of us together have even more power than this with our pens, for we can transmit personally to other men in other places and tell the truth. And by act of Congress, we can do it for a nickel that's worth $1 million. For a letter from a friend goes out not only to the mind, but to the heart of all the world.